The man stood quietly on the marble driveway, his tailored suit catching the golden rays of dawn. Moments later, flashing lights cut through the calm. 2 police cars screeched to a stop. "Sir, you don't belong here," one officer barked, already reaching for the cuffs. Neighbors peered through their blinds, whispering, recording. Within seconds, the situation spiraled. Accusations, humiliation, disbelief. But what no one knew was that this very property, the mansion, the land, every inch of it, belonged to him. And when the truth came out, the world would finally see who was really trespassing. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that open eyes and hearts. Marcus Williams was a man who had spent his entire life defying expectations. Born in a small southern town, he worked tirelessly to build his name, first as a real estate investor, then as a community developer. Years of perseverance had finally paid off. He now owned multiple properties, including a stunning mansion in an affluent neighborhood known for its exclusivity. To his neighbors, Marcus was just another face they never really cared to know. A man whose presence didn't quite fit the image they had built for their gated community. His success wasn't written on his skin, at least not in the way they wanted to see it. When Marcus finally moved into his dream home, he noticed the lingering stares, the whispers at the local store, and the polite but forced smiles that said, "You don't belong here." Still, he ignored it. He believed that his achievements spoke louder than their prejudice. Until one morning, the day it all changed. Marcus decided to visit one of his properties under renovation just a few streets away. He parked his car in front, inspecting the progress. To him, it was routine. To the neighbors watching from across the street, it was suspicious. Within minutes, a call was made to the police reporting a man loitering near private property. Marcus had no idea that this ordinary morning would turn into a humiliating spectacle, one that would be captured, shared, and discussed across the country. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind everyday injustice. 2 patrol cars pulled up with sirens wailing, startling everyone on the quiet street. Marcus turned, confused, as 2 officers stepped out, hands already resting on their belts. Their eyes scanned him from head to toe, filled with suspicion, not curiosity. "Sir, can we help you?" one asked, though his tone carried more accusation than question. Marcus calmly explained that he was the property owner and that the house was undergoing renovation, but the officers barely listened. Instead, they exchanged glances, one muttering into his radio, the other circling him like a predator assessing prey. The neighbors began to gather, phones out, whispers spreading. A few even smirked, satisfied that their call had been justified. One woman muttered, "Finally, they caught him." Marcus felt a sting in his chest, not from fear, but from the weight of a truth he knew too well. No matter how successful he became, his skin would always tell a different story to people like them. An officer demanded his ID, and Marcus reached slowly into his jacket, aware of every movement. But before he could even hand it over, they ordered him to put his hands behind his back. He tried to reason, explaining again that this was his property. The documents were in his car. His name was on the deed. It didn't matter. Cold metal cuffs tightened around his wrists. Cameras clicked. Someone laughed. Another whispered, "Good. That'll teach him not to trespass." As they led him toward the patrol car, one officer joked, "Guess this neighborhood's getting cleaned up." Marcus kept his head down, not in shame, but in disbelief that his success, his hard work, meant nothing to them. Minutes later, at the station, the truth began to unfold. When his name was entered into the system, the officer at the desk froze. The property records matched Marcus's name, not just this one, but multiple homes in the area. The man they had handcuffed wasn't a criminal. The silence in the precinct was suffocating. Officers who had been laughing moments ago now avoided eye contact. The same officer who cuffed Marcus now stood frozen, the arrogance drained from his face. The chief was called in, his tone low and apologetic as he reviewed the property records. The man they had publicly humiliated was, in fact, the legal owner of the very home they accused him of trespassing. Marcus sat calmly, his hands now free, but the red marks from the cuffs told the story better than words ever could. He didn't yell. He didn't demand revenge. His calmness unsettled them even more. The chief mumbled something about a misunderstanding, but Marcus knew the truth. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a mindset. As the story broke on social media, video footage from the neighbors' cameras went viral. The same people who called the police now faced a tidal wave of backlash. Viewers were outraged. Hashtags began trending overnight. Hashtag he owned it became a rallying cry across platforms. News reporters surrounded the station by evening. Cameras flashed as Marcus stepped outside, greeted by microphones and questions. Yet his response was calm, controlled, powerful. He spoke not with anger, but with conviction. You can own the house, build the neighborhood, and still be treated like you don't belong. The video clip spread like wildfire. Millions watched, shared, and reflected. It wasn't just about Marcus anymore. It was about every person who had ever been judged before being understood, every success story ignored because of skin color. Inside the station, the officers watched the coverage in silence, realizing that their actions had become a national lesson in what prejudice truly looks like. Before we continue, make sure you've liked this video and subscribed, so you never miss powerful true stories like this. Days later, the story was everywhere, from news broadcasts to social media timelines. Comment sections flooded with outrage, empathy, and reflection. People demanded accountability, not just from the officers, but from a society that allowed such things to happen. Marcus, however, didn't chase lawsuits or interviews. Instead, he chose something far more powerful: education. He launched a community initiative called Belonging Begins Here, aimed at training police officers and residents to recognize unconscious bias and treat every person with respect. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The same man who was humiliated for trespassing was now leading a movement for understanding and unity. In one interview, when asked what kept him calm through the ordeal, Marcus simply said, "Because anger changes nothing if it doesn't teach something." His words resonated deeply, echoing across millions of viewers who saw more than a viral story. They saw humanity standing tall against hate. Months later, the neighborhood that once looked down on him invited him to speak at a local event. Marcus stood before the same faces that once doubted his worth, and instead of bitterness, he offered them truth. The color of a man's skin should never decide the limits of his success, he said softly. Silence followed, the kind that comes not from discomfort, but from realization. As the sun set behind him, Marcus walked back to his car, the same driveway where it all began. But this time, there were no flashing lights, no whispers, no judgment. Only respect. Because sometimes the most powerful justice isn't punishment, it's transformation. If this story moved you, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share it, so more people understand that real change begins with awareness.